Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Non-Expert Guide to African TV and Film. Today, we are talking about the film Diamonds in the Sky. It's a film from Nigeria. It's on Netflix. It's directed by Kunle Afolayan, the veteran filmmaker. I don't know, can we call Kunle Afolayan a veteran filmmaker? I'm trying not to
I think
age
that's.
him.
I mean, he's got years in the game. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, we have to give him respect.
Yes.
Put
Okay.
respect on that name.
Veteran filmmaker. I hope it doesn't make him sound like he's 90 or something. But and stars some pretty some Nollywood heavyweights. Joke Silva, Kayode Olaiya, Adebayo Salami, Omomi Dada, Ali Nuhu, Ayomogaji, Bimbo Akintola, Yvonne Jegede, and on, Tony Abraham. So it's star-studded. And this is a summary. 3 families navigate uncertainty and struggle when cancer affects their lives and presents emotional challenges that test their bonds.
So what are you doing on campus? Checking up on babes, right? Checking on you.
Your father always insisted that a member of the family must be on the factory floor, and he was not referring to Edie.
Just worried that these things are messing up my system. What?
Something that has NAFDAC approval. Oh, that's funny. You entered into menopause some 8 years ago.
Yes, that is why I was so surprised at the menstrual flow in the last couple of months.
I and Kenya have been bunkmates for 3 semesters. This is how her period always comes. Don't bad. You are missing things.
Look, Aisha, you must submit yourself for screening.
Come on forward,
Okay, give me go for by baby, I'm a go see this.
You don't know cancer. Cancer is kokoro germ. It's not like death sentence. It is death sentence.
Báwo ṣe rò pé ó máa gbé àgọ́ ayérayé àgọ́ tí ò lè gbọ́ pá tí ò lè gbọ́ pé wá sínú ilé yìí gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìyàwó ẹ̀.
The tests don't lie. Is there something you're not telling me?
I'm here with my co-non experts, Ibiemi.
Brap. Hello. I'm here to gist about the movie as always, and hopefully something good will come out so that'll be useful for content creators and obviously viewers of African TV and film.
All right.
Ah.
Yeah. Tolu.
I'm just here to talk. I'm just here to chat. So,
and chat we will. All right. So, Diamonds in the Sky. What were any initial thoughts? Let's talk about some of the things that the film did well. Who wants to start?
I'm always starting. I want to break this streak. I really want to break.
Please start, because you always have
next time it's your turn. Just so you know.
It's always that how long can we keep this awkward pause before somebody goes first?
I know.
I've won every time.
I
know. But so it's very. It has a very Diamonds in the Sky is a very. It's not subtle about what it's doing. It's a very in-your-face, very message-driven film, and it has its good points. I think there were some things that were left out that I feel that could have been discussed a little bit better. But for what it is and for what it's trying to do, I think it did it well. I think it had a message. It passed along the message very, very clearly. And it did it in a way that I think would connect to the kinds of audiences it was trying to connect. The whole movie was really about focusing on about women's health, the different issues that come up with women's health, and what can happen in such situations. And I really appreciated that it took the time to look at women from different economic backgrounds, from different ages, from different walks of life. And all these issues are, they're scary, they're frightening, they can cause a lot of panic. And if you get help from the wrong place, it can even make things worse. I really appreciate the message of, um, how women should approach healthcare, what women should be thinking about when it comes to their healthcare. And I really appreciate that. All in all, I think for what it was trying to do, I think it was a good effort.
All right, Ibiemi.
I agree. So what did I think? I agree very much with a lot of things you said there too. It was very on the nose, wasn't it? It wasn't subtle at all. It wasn't artistically presented. It was more like, look, we have information that we want to give to you, and you will get that information, and we don't want to hide it. And there's this hospital somewhere, and this is what it's called, and this is where you find it in Ilori, and blah blah blah. So it wasn't subtle at all. But you know what? I think I would honestly allow them that, because I think the information is important, and the audience that it needs to get to, they just need to get that information. They need to be entertained, but they need to be like, yo, we're talking some serious ish here, and we want to be as clear as possible. I think what they did, another thing, I agree with that they did beautifully, was they touched on 3 different types of Nigerian women from socioeconomic backgrounds and different ages. I also think it was beautiful how they made the characters a little bit multi-dimensional. So one person, they talked about her professional life and her handling a big business and boardroom politicking and all of that. Another person, they talked about being a young girl that's looking to get married, and then some maybe difficult potential in-law issues. And then there was the other people that were kind of dealing with their own financial issues as well. So I like the way they gave them a little bit more, apart from the fact that, oh, she's a woman and she has cancer. So they did that, I thought, beautifully. So I think the story was clear. I think the characters, especially the lead female characters, I thought they did really well. Some better than others. Bimba Kitola, I thought, was brilliant. I absolutely loved her character. I thought she pulled it off brilliantly, and it's so good to see someone play a different character from what you've seen them play in different. She wasn't the posh, wealthy, well-spoken Kini. She was the the Yoruba, very, very well-spoken Yoruba woman who had all the mannerisms and all the, the nuance that you would expect in a typical, confident Yoruba woman. So I thought that was beautifully done from her perspective. But I think I'll leave it at that for now. The story was on point, the message was on point, there was no subtlety, and brilliant work in terms of storytelling and giving the characters some backstory, I suppose.
And yeah, I agree with you both. And so I won't repeat everything that you said, but what something else that I really liked here was, it was set outside Lagos. It was in Ilorin, and so it felt like this. I grew up in a smaller town in Nigeria, and it just reminded me of growing up in a smaller town, the slowness of life, the simplicity in some ways of life, right? These are characters I feel like, I recognize them. I could relate to them. These are people that lived around us. The dialogue you recognize the mannerisms, because we talk about all the time now about how, who's writing this dialogue, these lines that don't feel very natural. Everything about this, at least most of the dialogue, felt very natural. I felt like I wasn't outside of the story, outside of the film, I mean. Like I really went into it because it just felt like people that I feel like I could walk to Ilorin now and meet all those people, it just felt really natural. I love the Yoruba-ness of it, the mixture. I loved also that then he didn't feel like he had to shoehorn every Nigerian ethnicity and every Nigerian language in here. I don't even know if we heard Pidgin English at all, because it's Ilorin and it's I feel like it's half and half. Well, I don't know very much about Ilorin, but there's a Hausa population or influence, right? And there's Yoruba, and you saw that beautifully done. So loved that. But yeah, so let's go into more deeper analytics. Okay, so let's talk about the plot, the story itself, like you both kind of said, right? On the nose, very on the nose. But in terms of effective storytelling, was it effective?
100%. I would say, sorry, Tolu, I thought to help you there, and so I said I don't have to answer first. I'll give you this one. I thought it was really well done. For me, it was clear. They didn't try to treat too many different types of situations. They picked 3 situations, and they followed the lives of those 3 women effectively and gave them a bit of background, a bit, quite a bit of agency, backstory, and what I thought was quite nice as well was that they gave them, cancer was not all that they were. It came and it sort of railroaded itself into their lives, their ailment, and it's railroaded itself into their lives and tried to take over, and maybe in some sense it did take over, but they had other things going. So I thought the plot was really, really well done. I thought it was quite clear. It was clean, it didn't, it was one of those things where you read and you're like, oh, they didn't try too much, but actually I love this simplicity. And the truth is, simplicity, like we've said several times, is difficult to get. It looks like, oh, it was simple, but the amount of work that they must have done to strip away all the unnecessary ajasas and the different twists and turns that might have been exciting in their heads, but wouldn't translate well on film. A lot of work must have gone into that. So I thought that was beautifully done. I have nothing against the story there.
So do you have anything to add?
I was bored, and maybe because not for anything. I get what the story was doing, but I'm not the target audience for this kind of movie. And so while I appreciate what it was doing, I was hard pressed. In fact, let me not lie, I pressed fast forward a few times, just a couple.
I thought about you when I was watching it. I in my mind, I'm like, Tolu is fast forwarding this moment right here.
Because there were points, I get it. It was quite heavy-handed. Again, I don't know whether they were trying to make sure they were as clear as possible when they were speaking to their audience. And I think there was a lot. There wasn't any nuance to this movie. There wasn't any subtlety at all. There were some times I felt it veered a little bit on almost being anti-feminist, but trying not to be, but very obviously was at some points. But I don't know if that was just me. But what I really enjoyed about it was that they really did try. Like, I love the whole that she went to the Ifa thing. I didn't think it was very necessary to have that whole rape, or she was raped, or I'm going to go threatening them. Some of that was very unnecessary. One thing I have to applaud the writers for, and that they made all the male characters supportive characters and very supportive of the women in their lives, whether it was her son, her boyfriend, or her daughter.
Yeah, I mean, for me as well, the story was simple, straight to the point. Yeah, I mean, really, for when you think about a lot of filmmakers who want to do everything, and I'm glad there weren't any. I mean, Tony Abraham, I guess, played that role a little bit, the jester role, the comic relief a little bit. That was there, but that was fine. It was enough, and I'm really glad they didn't do more than that. So I thought the story worked. Again, like you said, for the audience, and if you're trying to reach everybody, right, you're trying to reach people who may not be educated, for example. I think this story works in terms of what they were trying to do. I mean, it obviously seems like a project that was sponsored by the Leah Clinic, and yeah, I thought they did a good job, yeah, for a film that, I mean, for it to end up on Netflix, I think, right? I thought they did a good job beyond sending a message. It's actually entertaining. Yeah. Let's talk about pacing. So, let's because Tolu, you were talking about how you were bored. Pacing. Yeah. If you want to say something, I thought
it was
like ridiculously long. Like, why are we spending time? Like, come on,
Yeah, I thought that's one thing that I thought it was far too slow. It was far. So I watched it when I think I saw this last week. I was going to watch it again just before we discussed it. I thought, oh God, am I going to have to sit through everything? And actually, I didn't watch it again, but I think I remember enough to be able to have this conversation. but I'm sure there are many dark spots in my mind where I kind of tuned out, which tells me again that it didn't need to be that long for it to have delivered the message. But it was just one of those things that it seemed so vanilla that even in its slowness, I'm quite forgiving. It's almost as if in the slowness, the bits where it was slow, I was looking at it more like a documentary. And then when the drama began, I was like, oh yeah, it's a movie, it's a film, let me watch. And then the other bits, I'm like, okay, it's like a boring part of a lecture that you really want to hear, but there's some basics that you kind of have to go through. And I'm like, oh God. So I will still forgive it. But yes, the pacing was kind of like, guys, come on, let's keep this moving.
Yep. So, you want to say anything else, or you're done on that topic?
Oh, sorry. Actually, there was one thing that they did that I think helped the pacing a little bit still, was because they had three stories that were parallel, but sort of going the same direction, and kind of crossed over with the Lear Clinic. So I think that kind of kept it going. So the whole company corporate politics part of Alaja's story, that was a bit dull. The young college student with her much older boyfriend was kind of like, we've seen this before. An overbearing mother, he's super rich, only child, blah blah blah. Yeah, I quite like the slight deviation, or not deviation, a slight addition of an older cousin who, I like that bit. That kind of lends a little bit extra to it. Yeah. And then, but the third one, which was being Sala's family. So I think the fact that it had those three different families or women or main characters involved helped the pacing a little bit, because it meant when you're getting bored with one and you're like, oh, I can't bear much of this any longer, it then switches to another one, and that holds your attention for a few minutes, and then you start to lose it on that one, and then it switches to a third one which you actually want to watch. So that helped.
Yep. Okay, so on that point, I think we should move over to the characters / actors. Let's talk about that.
And dialogue.
And dialogue. Okay, and dialogue. And Ibiemi, you talked a little bit about it already. But yeah, Bimbo Akintola was my favorite character. Her and her husband, I think his name.
And her husband.
Yeah, the actor that plays her husband, I can't remember his something.
The dialogue was authentic. The setting of their house was brilliant. The way they looked proper sweaty and not rich. I don't say poor, but poor, but yeah, they looked the part when they sorry.
He's a taxi
driver. Like a taxi driver.
Yes. I was just going to say the scene where he was in the taxi as well was brilliant. That, even the bedroom scene when they were there, it looked uncomfortable and stuffy. Just the way you kind of, like imagine, people in face by face you having marital meetings. Marital meetings. See how I panicked there. Anyway. But if you were going to imagine what it looked like, that's how it was, what it would look like. And I also liked, he spoke a little bit about agency earlier on. I like the fact that they gave Bimbo Akintola's character a little bit of agency. So she was subservient to her husband like a proper Yoruba woman, but she was a strong character who kind of used the little that she had to, a little bit of something, not to wield power, to wield authority, but she, they gave her a little bit of agency to be able to control some parts of her life. I love the way, just quickly,
quick interruption, like a proper Yoruba woman. I just want to say, like,
a traditional,
thank you, because I was like,
a traditional, you're like, I'm not a proper Yoruba woman if I'm going to do that. No, like traditional Yoruba woman, and certainly from, I think our parents' generation, who in some parts you kind of think, they were doormats for their husbands, but not completely. We shouldn't be fooled. They were not completely doormats for their husbands. It's just that they didn't let you show where they were wielding their power. So I thought that was really quite. I thought their characters were really quite good. The dialogue was brilliant.
I'm sorry, but I didn't. Auntie Joke's acting and accent was a problem for me. I mean, I love her. I think she's one of the finest actresses we have in Nigeria. I praise her incessantly for like really brilliant work. But this time, I think her performance, her accent actually, while it was there in bits and pieces, I don't think it was really ingrained into the character. So it felt like an accent as opposed to how her natural cadence and voice. So it just removed me a little bit from her performance, but she nailed the statuesque, confident businesswoman who, she's battling many things on many fronts. She's battling a brother-in-law. She's trying to, make sure the heir apparent is going to be able to hold his father's seat in case anything happens to her. She's still trying to run the business. She's still trying to make everything organized. And I really love that about her performance. Just I didn't connect with the character because I was really uncomfortable with that aspect of the accent.
Joke Silva's I didn't like it at all. I didn't like. Yes, the strong businesswoman bit she played well, but that's the role she always plays. She always plays the matriarch, the rich woman. So I'm kind of like, can they give her something else? Can they give her a bit of a part to act, please? So I didn't like that, and whilst her attempt at the sort of Hausa or northern accent was commendable. I thought the fact that she even tried that, I thought that was the only work she was doing, if that makes sense. I thought if she didn't do that, then she was just there as Joke Silva, and that was just a cop out, and that would have been lazy. So even though it wasn't great, I thought, well, at least she was working in that respect. But again, she is a brilliant actress, so you still, you saw the strong. So she managed to give us that. I'm strong and I can hold myself in corporate world, but I'm a human being. I'm a woman. I'm embarrassed by certain things. I'm fearful of certain things. I'm compassionate towards my son. So again, whilst I'm like, oh, come on, I need some more acting chops from you, I still think she was able to actually, play those sorts of different facets of what a human being would be, a woman in her position, in that position would be. She was able to give us a little bit of, those different aspects of her character as well.
Sorry, I can't remember the young lady who was playing the college student. I can't remember her name.
Omowumi Dada. That's her name. Her character's name is Eniola.
Yeah, Eniola. Omowumi's
performance.
Teniola, sorry. Omowumi's performance bordered on hysterical in some places, and that really threw me. I mean, the way oh my God! And then she was so, and this is where I struggle with saying that it wasn't, she was so hysterical over everything. Oh my God, I've been diagnosed with this thing. I have to say though, when she was writhing in pain, with the period pains, that was actually a really good performance because that's very real. And I know because I've done that before. I've been through that phase. So I know exactly what she's going through. So that part was really good. But when she was at the doctor's, every time she was at the doctor's, the over hysteria about, oh, my boyfriend, you can dump me because I'm not fertile. And this is where I feel is a little bit anti-feminist because they made her character's self-worth tied to, she has to give birth. She has to, her pregnancy, and is the only thing that she has to offer her boyfriend. She had no agency over her birth control. She had no agency about her doctor. She had no agency about all the things that was going on in her life. It's only when she went to the women's hospital by herself with the fact that and that was not even her agency. It was her friend who took her to get that second opinion, or to help her get that second opinion, that and so her character, for me, I had a lot of issues with, and just her performance was not the best.
The hysterical college student, I think the reason why I'm going on a little bit, but I think the reason why she might have been a little bit annoying is because we haven't been in her shoes. We're not in her shoes. I would actually imagine that a college student who finds out, that's how she would react. In Nigeria, I think, when marriage is celebrated or touted as something that young girls should aim for, that is what she'll be thinking about. I can't have children, even though she's probably in, having some 4.0 GPA or, has huge career prospects. What she'll be thinking about is, oh my goodness, I can't give my future boyfriend or my future husband kids. And of course, that's also reinforced by, the family of her boyfriend, who, when she went to dinner, that was reinforced. So actually her hysteria, whilst a little bit cringe, is explainable in sense of that is what society demands of her. and then she can't attain it, then she must throw a tantrum one way or another to show what I really tried, and it's beyond me. So I thought, yeah, annoying, but probably realistic. I'll stop there. I think I've rambled on a bit.
No. And just to go off of what you've said, yes, Auntie Joke, you know, first of all, I felt like the accent came in somewhere like 30 minutes into the film. Like, I feel like I didn't hear it at first, and it was like somebody, you know, kind of reminded them, the filmmakers, like, wait, so this woman is supposed to have a northern accent. And it just wasn't as strong, and then suddenly it's like there, and you're like, wait, where did this come from?
Where did that come from?
You know, I liked Omomi Dada's acting. I thought I just feel like I felt like I believed her, you know, and I feel like if it might have been somebody else in that role, I might not have believed. I mean, she did the ugly cry, you know, I thought she did it well. Yeah, at some point I wish they had made her, like the director had asked her to be a little more quiet in terms of, and she had some quiet moments, but I did wish sometimes where she was just sitting with this knowledge or this information and be quieter about it, as opposed to, you know, and the crying and the dying and the blah. But I guess maybe it was in contrast to Joke Silva's character as well, who was very calm and very almost stoic about it, you know, just like, you know, which was impressive as well, impressive acting. So
the last family was, I think, my most favorite, because she was a strong, you know, Yoruba woman. She's running her market store, her store, jejely, you know, and she has this lump in her breast. Her overly hands-on husband is disturbing her. She's not in the mood for this nonsense this time of nights. You know, she was very sort of, you could tell, and then she listens to her husband because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. And then she ignores her husband because that's what Yoruba women do sometimes. Somebody will tell you something and you're like, yes, I hear you. And you continue on your way. And, you know, in the end, I love the fact that her husband came and sat with her when she came together.
How about the guys?
Tulu was going to say something.
So just as a, but back to, what's her name? Teniola's character. Or
Yeah.
Teniola, the character. I don't know. I mean, it was like 2/3 of the way into the movie before she actually thought for herself. There was at no point in the beginning, from the time she took her birth control medicine till she actually there's at no point in that whole section her boyfriend said, let's go to hospital. She said, oh yeah, let's go to, the doctor said, this is what's happening. Yes, this is what's happening. I mean, she had no agency, and that to me is always very worrying. Is that I know.
But she's a university student.
Were you not a university student? Lola, were you not a university student?
Yeah, I've forgotten, no.
Yes.
University students, but facing that kind of...
I get what Tolu is saying.
She's a final year student. She's about to graduate.
I think you're expecting far too much.
I understand. So it's realistic? Yes. Again, should we be teaching people maybe, you know?
It made her seem 18, not like 24 or 22 or whatever. She was written so, even like more like 16, because she had no idea about anything. She didn't seem like she had read up on anything that was supposed to be. And the other thing that I didn't like is that her problems with cramps it's not a disease, but it's a condition called dysmenorrhea. I suffer from it. It's something I deal with like every month. But they didn't explain that at all. And I felt that was also did a little bit of disservice to women, because it's actually a fairly not uncommon problem with women. And we don't have that conversation at all about it. They could have just said, oh, this is what it is. It's not atypical for women. Just a couple of lines to explain that. But anyways, yeah, I don't know if it's.
I'll just say to your point about Teniola's character. See, the thing is, we don't talk about things, you know. So you have crazy heavy periods, you're anemic. Sometimes your own mother doesn't even know, you know. So she doesn't know these things because nobody has talked to her. You know, you start to have your period as a young woman in Nigeria. At least then, when we were growing up, I don't know what things are like now. And older women just said, yay, you know, then try not to have it, don't get pregnant, you know. or you got now you're a woman. Don't get pregnant. And literally that's what you got. And so anything else, I mean, it took a long time before I realized that my periods were unnaturally heavy. I thought that's how they were for everybody, you know? And so nobody has these conversations. So I can completely understand her not knowing anything. I was applying for something, and I had to have medical tests done in the US. And they were just like, why are you this anemic? I didn't even know I was that anemic. And they're like, how heavy are your periods? And I'm like, well, I guess they're heavy. You know, so nobody has these conversations with these women. They're not having these conversations. So I can understand her knowing absolutely nothing and just leaving everything to this older boyfriend who I guess she thinks knows better, you know, because he's older and maybe sure. I can understand that. However, I do think also filmmakers have a responsibility, and I always think this, right? To teach. So I wish there had been something in there where we saw her finally taking, you know, control, yeah.
She did.
Yeah, you're right. She did, but
she did. But I mean, she was just being dragged around, and I just Yes. Well, let's give him credit. She took agency and went to get a second opinion, and then realized that, you know, but man, that's screaming and shouting at the end, screaming and shouting in the middle, screaming and shouting at the beginning. I'm just like.
Maybe they could have done something from a filming perspective to make it a little bit more, not palatable, easy to consume, maybe. Or maybe we're just asking people in pain to just, I know you're in pain, but can you just die a little bit quietly? Because it's your pain and discomfort is interfering with my enjoyment.
God, I can't get pregnant. She jumps up and runs out of the room.
I love that scene. But I love that.
It's real though.
It's real. I love that scene where she runs out, right? He runs after her, and she's trying to flag down a taxi.
Oh my God! So it was so hysterical. I'm just like, wow, this woman's about to get run over by a taxi, and doesn't even.
Soon, not having children will be the least of her problems, but. So some characters that I really enjoyed in this movie were the medical professionals at the end. I thought they were very articulate. You know, even though I wasn't the patient, even I felt very much at ease. I thought the way they delivered the message at the end was very clear to the patients they were speaking to, but also to the people at home. Very strong, very direct, very empathetic, very professional. And it made me think, well, hang on a second. It made me fall in love with doctors all over again, because you tend to think, I've always loved doctors anyway, people in the medical field. But in Nigeria, you tend to forget, you don't really, I don't know, I'm just going to sound really bad, but you tend to actually don't really give them enough credit in your mind, just how intelligent and how articulate and how caring and how selfless the profession is all around the world, and even in a place like Nigeria. So I thought that was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And I'm guessing that they are actually medical professionals and not just actors, because that was, and if they're actors, well done. But if they're not, then...
No, go on.
Yeah, but if they're not actors, then I thought it was really nice touch from director's perspective.
Yeah, so I looked in the credits because I wanted to know, because I was like, if they're not doctors, wow, you know, really well done. So I saw two doctors' names, a man and a woman. So I'm guessing the doctors at Leah Center, right? The female doctor who talked to Bimbo Akintola's character.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the guy who talked to Amon Midada's character, I believe those must be the two doctors. And they did a really good job, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, I've always found Nigerian doctors to be the most caring I've ever experienced.
Where?
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm serious.
At home or abroad and at home?
Everything in the US and in Nigeria. I find Nigerian doctors more caring. I seriously do. I still remember my first doctor's appointment in the US, right? I had the flu. I'd never had the American flu. So it kind of shocked me, and I thought I was really sick, you know. And so I go to the hospital, and he's just like, it's just a flu. It'll go in a couple of days, you know. And I just remember feeling, wow.
India abroad.
India abroad, yes. I feel like, you know, Nigerian doctors are warmer, are more caring.
Yeah.
Again, do they have frustrations maybe that they deal with, and maybe sometimes I don't know. I've had a good experience with Nigerian doctors, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly the film certainly put them in brilliant light. So very, very well done.
I was very proud of them. I was like, you go, you know.
Yeah, I know. I really was. That's a very nice touch.
Tolu does not seem.
Yeah, I was gonna say they did a really good contrast with what a good doctor should how they should converse with you and how that communication should go, no matter your education level, no matter what status of life you're in. They can be empathetic, they can be clear, they can give you the information you need to make a good decision without being condescending or dismissive or and it helps women make better choices, and I think they did that really well, and so I have to agree with both of you.
But let's go back to Kayode's cousin, who wasn't even a doctor, so I don't know why he was the one who was like explaining, who gave Teniola her first diagnosis, right? And he was so, oh my God, when you're talking about what a good, doctor should not do.
He played that part really well.
Yeah,
I thought he played that part really well.
Slap him.
Because the funny thing is, he wasn't. At first, you would think, is this guy being a bit wonky? And it wasn't. You know how in Nigeria, if you're going to play a bad doctor, a bad nurse, they always make them larger than life and this caricature that it's obvious that this is what a bad doctor looks like. But for him, it was almost. I mean, the arrogance was subtle. He knew enough to sound like he was in the medical field, but also, I thought the acting, the lines there, the arrogance and everything, I thought that was beautifully done. And actually, you find people like that in different professions who are sort of adjacent to the profession, not really part of it, but then because of their role, they they take on that sort of pride that is very, very misplaced pride. So I thought that was really well done, really, really well done.
So somebody like a medical director who may run a hospital but may not have any. So that's what I thought his role might have been. But he was just I don't know how you say it in Yoruba, but he was just a blabbermouth. I know there's a Yoruba term for it, but it was really terrible because there was no doctor privilege. I mean, it really, and it's not uncommon. And I think they were trying to tell people that this is not how your doctor should treat you. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
But speaking of the blabbermouth, baborn-ness, right? Something I appreciated, because it's always this thing about how women are the ones who gossip, right? Women are the ones who talk too much, right? And we had Yemisi, when I looked in the credits, their friend, right? Their light-skinned friend, played by Tony Abraham, right? She was the blabbermouth, she was the talkative one, blah, blah, blah. Her name in the credits was actually Yemisi Olofofo. No, Yemisi Beborn, sorry. Yemisi Beborn, which I thought, okay. But I like the point that the father made at the end, right? And saying, that you're talking all over the place, is this not what happened? This is not what caused your own marriage to kind of dissolve as well. And I like that. Like, yeah, it's not only women, men, human beings gossip, and it's not a female trait. Everybody, does it. Anyone can do it, I mean. So yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that. I feel like the movie, it like was fighting itself. It was feminist in some ways and not feminist in some ways. It was weird.
I still don't know what you guys mean by it wasn't feminist in some ways. I thought it was very realistic. I thought what it was just trying to do was pass a message across to women in whatever stage or age or level they were in society, and just recognizing that. Then again,
maybe feminist is not the term, but I just felt like on the one hand, I hate it when a character, right, went to beg her suddenly, especially when there's some suspicion of cheating or whatever, and then she goes on her knees and she's begging. I hate that. I just feel like I used to see that way back in the 90s in Hollywood. Like, please, let us dead this thing, And then on the other hand, you have Joke Solo's character, who's very capable and competent at running this company and in charge, I don't know. And then you have a guy being accused of being a gayborn, so it's not only women. And so I just felt like there was different, I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about that, but.
I think it was realistic. And again, I thought it was good that they showed Bimbo Akintola's character as being. I think it wasn't so much that she was begging, but she had been untruthful, so she recognized her place of disadvantage. So she knew she had to come clean, and she had to come clean in a.
But why does
she had been untruthful.
Why does she have to kneel?
No, she had,
Yeah, but that's
it's our tradition now.
Yes,
it's our tradition.
I wasn't upset by that because in that kind of household, if it was the college student that had done that, I would have been upset. But in her household, you can tell they're a very traditional Yoruba household. Even me that doesn't know anything, it was very obvious. And so the hierarchy was very clear. She wasn't, I mean, there's nothing that would have, in his attitude or her attitude, that said that the power dynamics were anything more than traditional. So I allowed it for the circumstances in the movie. But if it was any other female character that did that, I wouldn't have agreed at all.
Okay, so for example, why are we not saying, oh, why was he the one that went to fight for her? Why shouldn't she fight for herself? I mean, she has agency. Why did she allow that man touch her? So the power dynamics were there in the sense that she was subservient to him for the most part, but then he also filled the position of, I will protect you, and when I cannot protect you, I will avenge you. Well, actually, he even protected her because he was very clear that first part that lie, fair way, you want to buff this one. Yeah. So he protected her then, and then she went and put herself in a position of peril. So he, in quotes, avenged her. So I think if we're going to question, the choices that the writer made by making her character like that, then we have to also question the fact that, but why did you make this man strong to go and avenge her? If she wasn't going to beg, then she shouldn't have allowed somebody to touch her up. She should have been the one to go back and fight.
Yeah, she was drugged, but
she drugged.
So yeah, all in all, it's a solid 6 because I appreciate it. For me, it was a 4. The audience, it was a solid 6, 7.
But wait, before we even go there, but I like the rating thing, but we have to talk about. So just going off of what Ibiemi talked about just now in terms of protecting her, there was this line that Kayode also used, right? Remember when he invited Teniola to family house for dinner? Goes, hey, I'm gonna go into the lion's den, and he's like, I'm also a lion. I protect you. I didn't know if I should love that line or not. Like a part of me wants to like it, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't need protection. I can protect myself, I don't know.
Well, you can't though. You can't. Because that's not your turf. You have no power there whatsoever. Yeah, the only protection you have is to remove yourself from the situation.
Yes.
But if you're going to be there, then you're another person's turf, and he has more power and more agency and more influence in that space. The same way, if he had gone to her house and her parents are like, who's this old man? Then she should be the lion to defend him there as well. Do you see what I mean?
I like that.
I mean, that's the way I would see it.
But we have to talk about Salamander. What did you say?
The whole
Salamander was creepy AF. My goodness. Bruh, like even me, I was like, ugh. Normally those type of characters I'd be like, what's all this now? But that one, it really kind of something about it that made me do that,
He was like a lizard. He was like a lizard. Ugh.
I know.
He played it so well. What language was he speaking? Wait, Tolu, what did you say?
I said, really, a salamander.
Yeah.
Oily.
Do you know one thing that I liked about the scene where he was bathing Bimbo Akintola's character? I thought that was brilliantly done, because even though he was being lecherous and things that he was saying, so that was obvious. But there was something about the look on her face that conveyed the fact that I feel like I had to go through this, but this doesn't feel right. Which I felt was brilliant.
And upset, and she was.
Yes, but she felt she had to be there, and I thought that's such a good interpretation, or what's the word? A good way to show how victims actually feel when they're being victimized. It's almost as if they feel they have to be there for one reason, or maybe to protect other people, or to buy their way through something, or for their own safety. But it doesn't mean that, because sometimes you're like, how did you let them do that to you? Well, that's how. I stood there, and it was the most revolting thing I've ever gone through, but I was also rooted to the ground for X, Y, Z reason. So I thought that was brilliantly done. Absolutely. And I think, going the full circle of having someone then come back and defend you, I thought that was that. I would like Afolayan to collaborate with a woman and do a story on rape.
So
I think he would deal with it. I think he would deal with it with a lot more care and attention. That's why I said collaborate with a woman. Actually do the I think there's a lot of research that his movies that I've seen in the past. It's clear that research has been done. Care has been taken in writing and in portraying some characters. And I think, just to be sure that it was done properly, do it with a woman who obviously has done the same amount of work as well. Or even, let the woman lead and he follows or whatever. But yeah, anyway, I thought that was really, really good attention to detail.
Yeah, because I remember when I realized what the film was about, I thought, oh, it's interesting that a male director who's kind of at the helm of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'd say I think he didn't do a too bad job for a non-woman. But but I feel like there's still a few more things about women that I don't know if a female director would have done it better, but
exactly.
I don't know. I actually don't know. But yeah, he did take care.
Opportunity.
I know, give them the opportunity, Abi. So
yeah.
I was actually surprised. I was surprised by his care. Again, I think there were some details that a woman might have done differently, but
yeah, I agree. There's another little detail that I loved as well was the fact that Joke Silva's character made an endowment, or whatever that thing's called, to the Leah Clinic. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant because they showed where she overheard, and I don't know whether she actually heard, where they're talking about where Bimbo Akizala's character was talking about funding and how they're going to afford this. And then she made a donation. So I thought that was, again, a little bit on the nose, but clear to people watching that actually this is expensive, but don't think about the cost because there are people out there that are making donations. And then of course, people that can make those donations, look, people, this is where it's going. These are the people that it can help. And you can just easily make a donation because it could be you as well using the same service.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start to wrap this up. Overall, Tolu, you were rating earlier. So what would you give it?
For me watching, I wouldn't give it more than a 5.
You said 6 before now. Come on now.
For me watching,
the
audience, maybe an 8.
Okay.
For the audience, intended audience, maybe an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean.
If we're going to do that sort of dual rating, for me watching, I would say 7. For the audience, I would say a 9.
That was what I was going to say as well. For me, 7,
yeah.
For the audience a 9, because I think, or let's see, maybe 8.5. I take a 5.5 points back because I feel like there's some teaching moments. I like that the teaching moments some of the teaching moments anyway, where like the men were supported. So I'm hoping that men watching that would think, if something like this happened to my spouse or girlfriend,
this is how I should behave.
So I like that.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see some more agency, like Tolu said, but good job. Yes. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us again. We just reviewed, what did we review? Diamond
in the Sky.
Which is a curious title. Like
it is curious, isn't it? It has no bearing whatsoever.
Okay.
All right, anyway. So be it.
It's a Nigerian movie title. It's okay. It's all right. We're okay with that.
All right. So
I'm happy they didn't call it When Women Have Cervical Cancer. Sorry.